Hello guys. So in this session we will learn how to deploy a web app to Amazon EC2 using GitHub Action. So let's start. So here I mentioned some prerequisites. So firstly we need an AWS account with permission. Then we need a GitHub account with permission to configure GitHub repositories, create workflows and configure GitHub secrets. Then we need a Git client to clone provided resource code, and we need to basic knowledge of Git commands like Git push, commit, clone, and so on. So that's the prerequisites. Then after that, here I mentioned some steps to deploy a web app to Amazon EC2. So here, firstly, we need to clone the project that AWS provide, code sample repository. After that, deploy the AWS CloudFormation template to create the required services. Then update the source code. Then set up GitHub Secrets. Then integrate CodeDeploy with GitHub. Then trigger the GitHub action to build and deploy the code. And after that, in last, verify the deployment. So that's the step we need to follow. So let's start. So let's go to the first step, download the source code. So as you can see here, first step, clone the source code repository, AWS CodeDeploy GitHub Action deployment. So that's the AWS repository that AWS provided. You can see here the repository AWS sample, the user AWS sample, and in this we are going to use this repository AWS CodeDeploy GitHub Action deployment. So that's the repository AWS provided. So let's use this. So first of all, let's clone this repository. So the command is git clone and that's the HTTPS. So here I'm using this git bash to clone repository. So I'm going to paste this. So it's done. So the repository name is, so the folder name is AWS CodeDeploy GitHub Action deployment. So let's check. So go to the C drive, then user, and then here you can see the folder AWS CodeDeploy GitHub Action deployment, and as you can see here the folders and files and so on. Okay, so that's the AWS repository. Now the next step is we need to create empty repository, right? So let's go to the GitHub account. So as you can see here, my GitHub account with the name DevOps, and here I'm going to create new repository, empty repository. So let's create new repository. So as you know how to create, so I'm going to enter a name for my repository, deploy web app Amazon EC2 using GitHub Action. Okay, it's done. Now the description. So if you don't want, then you can skip this description, but I'm going to add this. So here I'm going to simply add how to deploy a web app to Amazon EC2 using GitHub Action. Okay. After that, public or private. So I'm going to keep this public. If you don't want, then you can keep private. Then initialize this repository with the add a readme file, and after that, create repository. Now it's done. So repository name and the description. Now let's clone our empty repository. So how to clone? It's easy. Copy the HTTPS and let's open a git bash and simply enter command git clone and paste the HTTPS. Okay, it's done. Now go to the C drive, then user, and here is our repository folder. Deploy a web app to Amazon EC2 using GitHub Action. And as you can see here, we have only one file with the name readme.md file. Okay. Now the next step is here. Let's use this code that AWS provided, that repository, AWS CodeDeploy GitHub Action deployment. So I'm going to use this code. So I'm going to use this code and paste into my repository folder. Okay, it's done. Now it's done. Now let's open this folder into this Visual Studio Code. So let's open a folder, and our folder name is here, AWS CodeDeploy GitHub Action. No, our folder name is Deploy AWS App to Amazon EC2 using GitHub Action, right? Because our repository name is here, you can see deploy a web app to Amazon EC2. So that's our repository folder. So let's open it. Okay. So you can see here the folders and files that we have. Here you can see git.github, then AWS CloudFormation, Spring Boot, then so on. Okay. Now let's check the next step. Now it's done. Now let's check. Now the next step is repository folder structure. So firstly we have .github folder, then after that AWS folder. In AWS folder we have scripts folder. After that CloudFormation, then Spring Boot Hello World example is a sample application used by GitHub Action to build and deploy. Right? Here you can see is Spring Boot Hello World, right? Okay. After that root of the repo contents, right? That's the YAML file. After that deployment on Amazon EC2. Okay, so that's the folder we have here. You can see a repository structure. Okay, then now the next step is deploy the CloudFormation template. So for that we need a AWS account, right? So first of all we need to log in our AWS account and go to the AWS CloudFormation console. Okay, so here you can see this is my AWS account, and here I'm in this uh, CloudFormation console. You can see here the dashboard of CloudFormation. So now you can see here create a CloudFormation stack. So first of all, let's create a stack. So here you can see I'm going to create a stack. So you can see the step here, first step. So let's create first prerequisite. So here I'm going to use this template is ready. Here you can see here select template is ready. After that select upload a template file. Then select choose file, navigate to template.yaml file in your clone repository. Okay, so let's check. So first of all, here I'm going to choose this template is ready. After that scroll down. Here I'm going to use upload a template file. And let's choose file. And after that open our repository folder. So let's go to the C, then users. Here is username, and here is our repository folder. Here, deploy a web app to Amazon EC2 using GitHub Action, right? Here is a repository folder, and here CloudFormation, and here template.yaml file. So I'm going to open this. Okay. Okay, you can see the URL. Okay. After that, next step. Now the next step is stack name. Enter your stack name. So here you can see the step. In step, let's say select the template YAML file and next, select next. Then after that, in specify stack details, so stack name. So here, if you want, then you can enter this code deploy stack. So I'm going to use this code deploy stack. After that, next is you can see VPC and subnet. Here you can change these values if you prefer to use this own subnet, right? But I'm going to use this, so that's fine. So keep as it is. After that, scroll down here. Here we need to enter our GitHub repo name. So how to enter? So you can see the example. First of all, we need to enter our username and then our repository name. So our username is DevOps hint slash and then our repository name. So our repository name is deploy a web app to Amazon EC2 using GitHub Action, right? So let's check for once. Deploy a web app to Amazon EC2 using GitHub Action. Okay, it's correct. Okay, deploy a web app to Amazon EC2 using GitHub Action. Now click on next. Now here in permission, choose IAM role ARN. Let's check first step. So select acknowledgement of IAM resources and then select create. Okay, so let's select IAM resources here. IAM role name, right? Then click on next. After that, you can see here the details. You can see the parameter and instance type and so on, the permission and so on. So here we need a I acknowledge that AWS CloudFormation might create IAM resources with custom names, right? You can see here. Now you can see after after choose IAM resources and then select create. So it will take CloudFormation approximately 10 minutes to create all the resources, and this stack would create the following resources. I'll show you. First of all, let's create. So here I acknowledge and then submit. Now you can see here create in progress. So let's check the following resources. So as you can see here, now it will create two Amazon EC2 Linux instance with Tomcat server and CodeDeploy agent are installed. After that, auto scaling group with internet application load balancer. After that, CodeDeploy application with application name and deployment group. After that, Amazon S3 bucket to store build artifacts. After that, identity and access management and OIDC identity provider, and then instance profile for Amazon EC2, then service role for CodeDeploy, and in last security groups for ALB and Amazon EC2, right? So here is the resources that we will create. So wait for 10 minutes. So let's wait. Okay, so it's done. So as you can see here, the status create complete. Okay, so now let's check. So I'm going to click on events, and you can see here the resources that we have created. Okay, after that you can see a status, some resources create complete and some resources create in progress. Okay, now go to the outputs, and here check the GitHub IAM role ARN, and after that the web app URL. Okay, so here I mention, so you can see update the source code. So on the AWS CloudFormation console, select the output tabs and note that the Amazon S3 bucket name and the ARM of the GitHub IAM role, and we will use this in the next step, right? So here is the ARM, that's our bucket name. Here is the ARM, as you can see here the ARM, and that's the web app URL. Okay, now update the Amazon S3 bucket in the workflow file deploy.yaml, right? So here in output deployment bucket, so let's check the bucket name. So I'm going to S3 bucket, and you can see our bucket name code deploy stack web app deployment bucket, right? You can see here the bucket name, that here you can see code deploy stack web app deployment bucket, right? And you can see the name, right? Okay, so let's copy the bucket name. I'm going to copy this from here, and now the next step is here update the Amazon S3 bucket in the workflow file deploy.yaml and navigate here the location from your project root directory. Okay, so let's go to the Visual Studio Code, and here our workflow GitHub. So let's go to the workflow deploy.yaml file, and here we need to enter our bucket name. Here you can see S3 bucket. So let's enter our bucket name. Okay, and after that AWS region. So my region is AP South hyphen 1. As you can see here, my region is Mumbai. Here you can see, and you can see here the region AP South hyphen 1, right? Okay, so here I mention my region AP South hyphen 1. So I'm going to save this file, and after that the next changes in scripts build.sh. No, I guess AWS, and here after installation.sh, and here we need to enter our repository name. So let's copy the repository name and let's paste here. Sorry, here. Okay. Now save the file. Okay, it's done. Now let's check the next step. Now the next step is here. Now the next step is set up GitHub Secrets. So let's set up GitHub Secrets. As you know how to set up. So here navigate to your GitHub repository. So here let's select secrets for the left menu bar and select new repository secret. After that, select action under secret and enter the secret name I am role GitHub. So our secret name is I am role GitHub and enter the value as ARN of GitHub I am role. Here you can see the ARN that we are going to use in our secret. Here GitHub I am role ARN. Okay, so let's create secret. So go to the GitHub and let's go to the settings. Then go to the secrets, actions, and as of now here you can see we don't have any secrets. So create a new secret and enter your secret name. I am role GitHub and enter a value. So let's copy the value. So our value is here GitHub I am role ARN. Here I'm going to copy this and let's paste in value, add secret. Okay, now it's done. Okay, now it's done. Now let's push our code. So copy this both file that we have changes, this after installation.sh and deploy.yaml file. Okay, let's save this file and after that I'm going to comment this work dispatch on push. Okay, so let's save this file and let's push this code. As you know the command, so let's open new terminal and enter a command to push. So the command is git add dot, then git commit hyphen m in double quote our commit files added, and then in last git push. So it's done. So let's say go to the repository and refresh the page. Now you can see here we have successfully pushed our code into our repository. You can see here our files and folders. Okay, now let's go to the actions and let's check our workflow. You can see here is in progress. So build and package is in progress. So let's check. So you can see a build and package Maven. So you can see here, it's done. Build and package step done. Now the deploy job is running. So it's also done. You can see here 15 seconds ago, it's done. That means our workflow succeed. You can see here succeed, right? Okay. Now, if I go to my S3 bucket and refresh the page, and after that, here you can see the war file spring boot hello world example application dot war file, right? That we have here, right? That war file. And then after that, now the next output is if I go to the stack information, and here you can see stack ID. So let's check this URL. No, sorry. Here, in outputs, scroll down, and you can see the WebApp app URL. So let's check this URL, and you can see congratulations, you have successfully deployed the sample Spring Boot application. So that's our final output. You can see, congratulations, you have successfully deployed the sample Spring Boot application. So it's done. That means we have successfully deployed a web app to Amazon EC2 using GitHub Action. So thank you for watching.